Morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Now I'm going to let this chat work out here. Yeah, there we go. Knock, knock. Okay, there we go. There we go. How do I pin it again? Pin. Oh, no, I'm going to pin it on a timer, though. Pin, unpin. There we go. I got to pin it on a timer, I think. That'll keep it down. All right, let me just make sure I'm going live on YouTube because we're using Rumble Studios today. So mixing it up a little bit. Got to make sure it's happening. Do we have a live feed over on... Oh, it says I'm live. That's great. Yeah, the only bummer with Rumble Studios is that our kid is looking through the window making a noise. The only bummer with Rumble Studios is that I can't preload the thumbnail into YouTube, but that's okay. That's okay. Christine, good morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well, Christine. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm not... Okay, yeah, there we go. People coming in over there. Let me see what's going on over on X to make sure it worked. Different studios, you know. Different studios. Trying it out. It says I'm live. Okay, everything's working. Excellent. Very good news. Very good news. Pull that one down. Yeah, just getting used to all this stuff. Okay, and I'm getting YouTube comments. I did not get those yesterday, so this is good. Bomatang, good morning, Bitcoiners. Edwin, good morning to all my Bitcoiners. Indeed, indeed. Good morning to you, Edwin. Sup, Dolan. Close. Good morning, all. Good morning, Ben. Hope you're doing well. It's not giving me the emoji, Knoxville, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Hand pink waving. We know what you mean. We know which emoji you're referring to. P-Man, good morning, all. Fine day to be a Bitcoiner, isn't it? We're going to talk about that today. Good morning and good day, Zappa BTC says. Indeed. Good morning and good day. All right, things are working okay. Looks like we got... X doesn't register on the studio, so I don't know how many folks I'm getting in from there. On the way to Vienna. Way to go, Daniel. What you doing in Vienna? We love it. We love it. Every day walking with Christ says, good morning, Maxis, and God bless. Indeed. We'll share that with everyone. We'll share that with everyone. We love it. We love it. So the thing I do like about the Rumble Studio is I like this timer thing for the comments, right? You can choose 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then it just extinguishes it on its own. You can put them up there permanently. On the other streaming software, I don't have any of those choices. It looked like it was a software problem yesterday, though. I did a test live this morning, and it let me go live on Restream. So I was just wondering what it was. But I figure I'm going to keep trying this Rumble Studio thing and see if I can get used to it, because I feel like the interface for showing videos, clips and other things on screen are probably better. Not videos, but like I want to be able to put the reference in and maybe put the picture of the headline in the background. You know, you see a lot of other YouTubers and streamers doing that. I figure I should be able to figure it out. My sound is much better. Well, Rakeman isn't around, right? Rakeman and Boat Cleaner, all these guys are out of here. And this condo is quite insulated sound-wise, so I feel like I'm going to be getting good sound. Good lighting as well, progress. Lighting is a little sketchier, we'll see. I think in this room anyway, today, because it's cloudy, I can control the light a lot better. But when it's very sunny, it's going to be an issue. But I think the sun is what we like, right? We like a little bit of sun in the background. So, and I think it'll be even cooler when the seasons change and you get a bit of sunrise. You know, you'll get a little bit of color back there towards October. So that should be fun. Seaberger, don't forget to like this chat, y'all. Indeed, we love that. We love the likes, huh? We're here for the likes. We love the likes. All right, let's just acknowledge that the lighting's better, but the sun had a lot to do with it, right? The sun gives us the good light here. Today it's a little cloudy, so it's giving us pretty good light, right? We're happy about that. But let's just acknowledge the sun is up, right? Forget about how much light and what calibration the light's at. The Sunrise Tech operating as intended, and Bitcoin's running. We're doing great, everyone. We're doing super. What else is there to even talk about, right? What's new? We can talk about what's new. We love talking about what's new. Nice look. Good morning, beautiful Bitcoiners. Yes. Let me get this pin out. Unpin. There we go. Okay, we're doing great. Vito, good morning, Bitcoiners. Missed y'all yesterday. Well, yesterday was a bit of a weird one. I think we didn't get going until about a half an hour into the show because of technical difficulties. My normal streaming software just would not work. But we made up for it. We figured it out. We had a good one. We had a good time. Whoop, whoop. Maxie's. Hello, John. Hope everyone's doing well. All right, let's get into some Moscow time. Moscow time. So as I told you, this will be a clip that I'll start cutting and sharing with its own graphics and all that kind of stuff, its own logo. Should be pretty fun. It definitely will be a block clock. So we're working on some of the theoretical designs, but should have that to share with you shortly. I did upload the audio only podcast yesterday, still only on, what's that one called? Spotify, but I'll get into Fountain and some others, right? Drew, can someone explain OP cat? My kids sing that all the time. Drew Headley says, can someone explain OP cat? I can't do it today, but I'll get you a primer. It's in the song. The song is excellent. Are you close to the Sun Life building? No, I was last year. This year, I'm in Victoria Square, more or less. You can see it's the Champlain Bridge right there, the main bridge of Montreal. You can see it in the background. It's very nice at night, lit up and everything like that. Anyway, let's get into some Moscow time, guys. I know you're not here for descriptions of the background, which is cool. Not as we love the Barbados background, but this one's good too. The Vermont one's going to be the best once I get that figured out. That'll be the best background, but still a little bit of work configuring the sun and all that kind of stuff. But all right, let's get into some Moscow time. Oh, I forgot to have the sip of coffee. I can't miss the sip, right? We know the sun's up and we know Bitcoin's running. All that's left to do is talk about what's new, but I need a coffee to do it. So have a sip of coffee and we'll go over what's new. So today's Moscow time. It's really good. It's a really good one. All right. Bloomberg Green telling us, right? Bloomberg Green. More than 2.5 billion workers are exposed to climate change related health hazards, the International Labor Organization says. So, not only can they measure the temperature on Earth at different times, at different stratospheres, right? At different elevations. They got floating temperatures. They know what it is, 200 kilometers up in the air, 100 kilometers up in the air, 10 kilometers up in the air. They know what the temperature was 10 kilometers up in the air 200 years ago. They're so good. They're amazing, right? They're so good. But now they can even calculate exactly how many workers are being affected, right? 2.5 billion. Wow. But don't worry, there's some solutions coming to deal with all this climate change stuff. We got the solutions on the horizon, right? What should these 2.5 billion people do, according to Bloomberg Green? Well, New York Post has some advice. New York environmentalists' next target. Here it is, guys. This is going to help those 2.5 billion workers affected by climate change. They got the answers. They're right here. The environmentalists know. Here it is. Individually wrapped cheese slices face a ban under the far-reaching bill. That's all we got to do, guys. We got to ban individual cheese wrappers. Now, I don't know what they're going to do about Baby Bell because they put those in wax. I'm sure the emissions are crazy. So I figure Baby Bell is going to be a casualty of this, right? So don't look out for Baby Bell. But all the individually wrapped cheese, we're not sure yet if getting rid of shredded cheese will help climate change, but we'll find out. I'm sure the experts will let us know. But right now, right, we know what the target is. The 2.5 billion workers, tell them the news is in. We're getting rid of the cheese slices. Problem solved, guys, right? But Bloomberg has more advice, right? So that was New York Times, New York Post saying we got to get rid of the cheese. There's more, though. Bloomberg has a great article. Bloomberg Green is awesome, right? They're the ones who knew that it was 2.5 billion workers affected by climate change, right? But this one's good. 6 small ways to turn climate anxiety into positive action, right? So if you got a bit of the climate anxiety and the cheese slices thing didn't help you, and you're like, well, I don't know if the cheese slices are going to be enough for the 2.5 billion, but don't worry. There's other ways you can fix it, right? Here we go. There's a lot of worrying news about climate change, but readers have told Bloomberg Green how they're trying to make life for the planet better, right? So it's not just the cheese slices, all right? This Matti Kara from Finland has advice. He says, find something good to read, but be careful. They don't get into the details here. My advice to you to work off of Matti Kara's stuff is don't kill any trees and use paper for reading, right? Because, you know. So definitely but wait a minute. The iPad uses electricity and your phone uses electricity and they got to burn coal for that. So even though he said find something good to read, make sure it's written on some kind of ancient papyrus or go to a used bookstore so they don't have to cut any more trees, right? He didn't really get into the real details here, but I'm here to help, right? So find something good to read at a secondhand store is what he should have said. But nevertheless, read. Just don't think about the 2.5 billion people and the climate change. We got more. This is from Ithaca, New York. Greg Nelson tells us, try a change of scenery, right? But don't go anywhere hot, right? He doesn't say that here. He just says, travel, get away from it, right? Just get away from it. But, Greg from Ithaca, try a change of scenery. The problem is if you go down south and it's hot, you're just going to get reminded of it. So, listen to them, go really far north, right? Go into the cold, go travel in the cold, right? So secondhand bookstore in the north in the cold, without sliced cheese, you're getting somewhere. You're getting somewhere now. We got more, though. We got more. Get young people involved. I see all these kids killing themselves. We got a big suicide problem with kids not leaving their house, kids not doing enough, not playing enough, right? So in this case, what they're saying here, this is from Accra, Ghana. Diana Sitsiwu. Pardon me if I got your name wrong, Diana. So her plan is to just offload the anxiety onto kids. So if you get the kids really worried about the future and anxiety, you might have to take care of the kids instead of your own anxiety. That might help. So she's got some good advice there. So get young people involved, stress them out. Not enough of them are really, popping themselves off and stuff like that. The kids are doing great, right? Everyone knows how great they're doing, right? So, let's help them out. It gets better. Justin O'Byrne from New York, New York. He's a University of Michigan senior. He says his climate anxiety peaked when he began learning about climate change in middle school. But didn't the Accra girl just tell us to get young people involved? So someone got this guy involved. So now that he's not, he's a senior, so he's not really a young person per se anymore. Like he's in his 20s, right? So his thing now is don't obsess about perfection. Right? If the temperature that they measured for the change was like 23.2 degrees, but it was supposed to be 23.1, right? And it's like 0.2 above, even though the user error reading temperatures is about a full degree, right? That there could be a spread between human error reading a temperature gauge of about 1 degree, right? If you and I read a temperature gauge with the mercury and all that, that there is about a degree difference in what people will report they see, even if they're looking at the same thing, right? So he says, don't worry about that. It's fine. Humans make mistakes. They make mistakes measuring stuff. Don't worry about it, right? Don't worry. It's fine. We're going to be okay. Don't obsess about perfection, okay? He works sustainability into his routine. He has meatless Mondays, right? He does meatless Mondays, right? But if he happens to eat a cheeseburger that day, he says, don't sweat it. It's fine. You do your best, right? It's pretty good advice. Anthony Lamb from Wells, England. This is advice number 4 or 5, I think. He says, use your retirement wisely. So just like we heard before, you can get the kids really, you can offload a lot of your stress about the environment to the kids, right? So if you're retired, you should really, that's what he's saying, you should really do that, right? You should just get a bunch of kids, be an educator, and you can offload a lot of your stress. You can get them all stressed. They'll do the work for you. You're too old. It's not going to work, right? And he says, Lamb copes with his concerns about climate change by volunteering his free time in retirement to raise awareness about the issue. So exactly as I said, right? He became a member of the Extinction Rebellion, and he began engaging in demonstrations, right? It's perfect. It's perfect. So he got the young kids all stressed out. It's perfect. He's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. And now we get this one from Carol Perlman from Mexico City. This is our last one. And she says, help others deal with their emotions, right? So this is along the same lines of like use your time and educate people, but also offload it to kids, right? So it's all kind of just like make the kids stressed out, right? But there's different ways of doing that, right? So here is helping others deal with their emotions, right? So if you're stressed, help the stressed person. I love when you put a bunch of anxious people together. They always cure each other. It's normal. It's obvious, right? She is a science communicator. That's her job. She's a science communicator. Perlman Chan, science communicator. She channeled her climate anxiety into an exhibit on ocean degradation at Mexico City's Museum of Natural History. There you go. There you go. So you can go make an exhibit about the end of the world. It's great stuff. It's really good. So that's what we got with the environment. I think I had one. No, that's another one. Do I have one more environment one? No, I think we're good on the environment for now. Oh, yeah. So this one's good. I did have one more. So, they said, don't get stressed out, stress kids out instead. Meatless Mondays, don't be a perfectionist, right? The cheese slices, that's going to be a big component of how we manage this stuff. No more individual cheese slices. Can't do it, right? 2.5 billion people waiting on you. This one's great. This is just a straight up read it, right? Don't worry about the farms getting closed in the UK. Don't worry about the fertilizer stuff, right? Farming, UK facing food shortages and price rises after extreme weather. So good. All right, that's what I got. I got more Moscow time. We're not done yet. We got plenty more. All this DEI stuff. Well, The Guardian is letting us know. Racist dog whistle. The right wing has weaponized DEI. The decades-old term is about egalitarianism, but conservatives have turned it into a 3-letter profanity. Baltimore's leaders were the latest target. Bom, bom, bom. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. We got more on the protests. So this one, I'm going to add a alternate headline written by Mike Solana, who's great, by the way. I love Mike Solana, Pirate Wires. So this is the Daily Beast headline, and then I'm going to contrast it with another way to write the headline from Mike Solana, right? So this is not my words. This is just a little bit of it, right? Here's what he says. When Isra Hirsi, the daughter of Ilhan Omar, joined several of her classmates in a pro-Palestinian campus protest known as the Gaza encampment, she had no idea she would end up suspended, homeless, and left without food within a matter of days. That's their headline. Alternate headline from Mike Solana. What a fascinating way to write. One of the most powerful Nepo babies in the country had a week to gather her things and move back in with her mother, a sitting congresswoman, after being suspended for breaking the law, and also her glasses are stupid as hell. Oh, we got a Phil Bump spotting. We got some Phil Bump here, right? Or let me get to the first one. All right, so Trump has had the Stormy Daniels thing all week, and all the women on MSNBC are so happy. They're like outside. They're all smiles this week. It's nice to see, right? Honestly, they've been so angry lately. They've been doing the resting bitch face a lot on MSNBC. And I love it. I love watching it. It's nothing but laughs. I can't get enough of MSNBC. It's a hilarious network. I'm so glad it's on the air. But I get a little sick of the monotone resting bitch face that the women have had and the batshit crazy eyes, right? So it's been actually nice this past week because Trump's got the porn star case and he's in court every day, and they get to mind read him live, and they love that, right? So they've been happy. It's nice to, just a little bit of a change. I don't think they're going to be so happy going, there's going to be dark times for them next week or the week after or something. So it's nice to see them doing a little while. Here's what the Washington Post says, right? So they're watching him all the time. Trump is nodding off during his own criminal trial. This is from the Post. The former president seems to be falling asleep and then jerking awake as his hush money trial involving a porn star. It's the falling asleep part that's somehow the most embarrassing thing about it. We love it. We love it. This is good. So Phil Bump, he uses double negatives all the time. There's something about the way he writes that really makes me want to drop him from space. Like, really. Like, I want to get his ass hooked to a rocket and up there and out. Here's what he says. Analysis by Phil Bump. Voters, listen to these double negatives. They're hilarious. Who writes like this? Voters are unusually not interested in the presidential race, is what he's saying. He's saying that no one's paying attention to the political race in America in 2024. Okay. All right, Phil Bump. Voters are unusually not interested. Unusually not interested. So good. Liz Cheney published an essay in the New York Times. Liz Cheney, the Supreme Court should rule swiftly on Trump's immunity claims. And Huffington Post wrote a headline about Liz Cheney's op-ed in the New York Times saying, Liz Cheney urges Supreme Court to reject Trump's delay tactics in scathing op-ed. It cannot be that a president of the United States can attempt to steal an election and seize power, but our justice system is incapable of bringing him to trial, she wrote. He can't go to trial, guys. Trump can't go to trial. There's no trials. They can't get him. Oh, geez. This one's good, too. So this is a headline from the Arizona Sun-Times, right? So Trump can't go to trial, but the California judge who disbarred Trump's former attorney, Eastman, funneled money to super PAC fighting election integrity. So the judge donates to a super PAC that wants all Americans to vote without ID. And then she said to Trump's lawyer, you're disbarred for saying the elections have no integrity. You should see her too. You should see her face. Guess what she looks like? You guess. Does she look like the MSNBC crazy fucking bitches with the eyes? Of course she does. Of course she does. Now I got one more here. I got one more, and it's Zelensky. It's two headlines, but you can mix them into one, right? So Zelensky wrote a letter. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read you Zelensky's letter because the U.S. government gave them a bunch of money, $61 billion. So Zelensky to Biden, thanks for the $61 billion. And he says, Zelensky, I am grateful to the United States Senate for approving vital aid to Ukraine today. I thank Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Republican Leader Mitch McConnell for their strong leadership in advancing this bipartisan legislation, as well as all U.S. senators on both sides of the aisle who voted for it. Thank you. This vote reinforces America's role as a beacon of democracy in the world, in the free world. Sorry, he added free world there. So America as a beacon of democracy and the leader of the free world. The leader of the free world, guys. I'm also grateful to all Americans who continue to support Ukraine and recognize that the historical significance of this bill extends beyond politics, guys. It extends beyond politics. I equally appreciate President Biden's support and look forward to the bill being signed soon and the next military aid package matching the resoluteness that I always see in our negotiations, right? So Biden is so resolute. I am grateful to the United States Senate. Oh, no, hold on. I know I got that. The resoluteness. Yeah, that I always see in our negotiations. Ukraine's long-range capabilities, artillery, and air defense are critical tools for restoring just peace sooner. In other news, so remember everything he just said, right? Leader of the free world, the beacon of democracy. We love it. They're the beacon of democracy. But don't look too closely, okay? This is just a little headline from the Washington Post, right? Remember everything you just heard from Zelensky? Ukraine moves to cut off consular services for military-age men abroad. What? So if you're a Ukrainian and you're living in America and you're military age, don't go looking for a little passport help, because you got a surprise. America gave them 61 billion, but they're going to bring you in too. All right. So if you're a male Ukrainian and you're watching the show and you need a new passport or some help, yeah, better think twice, because they're going to give you a gun, right? They're not going to give you a passport. They're going to give you a one-way ticket to the front line. So there you go. But thank God, America helped them. The beacon of the free world. We love it. We love it. All right. So indeed, this is one of these weird sort of turning times in the calendar. It looks like everything is sort of priming with potential energy, and we're starting to see the stories that will run over the summer emerge. Now, one of the great things about being a Bitcoiner and studying economics for so much, and really having your worldview informed by economics, informed by incentives, informed by how human beings just simply make decisions, right? It actually helps you see around corners. Economics are really a prediction tool, because they don't leave it up to chance when it comes to predicting the future. What you really look at are, where are things headed? How are people going to decide on things? And what decisions will they make in the short term, given all of the inputs that we have? And it really does help you make predictions, right? That's why we make predictions openly on this show. We're always trying to test our ability to predict, and the Bitcoin worldview really does offer an excellent prediction model for you to understand what's going on, because it's an economics-based worldview. And if you have an economics-based worldview, you can kind of pop any story off of that stratosphere, and you'll get the reaction you need. You'll get the bounce you need to understand where things are headed. So interestingly, there's a few stories out there. I'd say the TikTok one that we saw yesterday in the US House, as well as the Columbia University story. Both of those ones, I think, really offer the ingredients that we'll see turn into a cake over the summer. And we're using our economics abilities to understand where that's headed. So first of all, the TikTok bill is pretty interesting, right? So let me see where the votes came in. Well, anyway, I'll read you Melissa Chen's. So this is the bill to force TikTok to divest from parent company ByteDance, just passed 79-18 in the Senate. Now, what you got to understand is there's broad support in America for regulating TikTok now. They've managed to persuade that. And so that's everywhere, right? So you got a lot of people understanding it. The kids who use it, a little less, but it's even getting there. So Melissa Chen writes, this is a big decision by the US Congress. Well, it made sense to fast track the TikTok divestiture bill by tying it to foreign aid funding. I can't help but feel that this maneuver raises the heckles of those already suspicious of the blob trying to control narratives about foreign conflicts. In the next 270 days grace period that TikTok has to find a US buyer, not to mention the certainty that ByteDance will challenge this in court, we will see heightened agitation of our culture wars melded into commentary on geopolitics. TikTok users are going to be primed for it. You think the campus protests going on now are bad? Just you wait. Predictions, Summer of Love 2 is coming up, Melissa writes. She says Biden will most likely sign the bill into law this week, meaning that the deadline for a sale would fall in January 2025. This means the election in November is going to be lit. Buckle up. And indeed, it looks like this whole thing is a persuasion for taking out X. Right? That's what I'm seeing anyway. It looks like the argument, they're going to get everyone talking about the argument around TikTok, who owns it, the dangers of foreign ownership, the dangers of persuasion that can happen when someone who's not the government owns it, right? We're seeing it go through. You can see the way things are shaping up in Australia, for example, against Elon Musk. You had this Prime Minister talking about the Australia Prime Minister taking time during a presser to advertise for Elon Musk, right? Which is what Elon said. What he's saying here is, by and large, other social media responded appropriately to the calls for censorship by the e-safety commissioner. X chose not to, which means that X is legitimately the only one not getting censored by the government. So they sent this out as like, look how terrible X is, without realizing that it was actually underlining the quality of it, right? So Elon says, I'd like to take a moment to thank the PM for informing the public that this platform is the only truthful one. Now, this lady who caused the whole issue is their senator, an Australian senator named Jackie Lambie. And she said yesterday or 2 days ago that Elon needed to be jailed. She says, quite frankly, the bloke should be jailed. And the sooner we can bring laws in and do something about this game playing with our social media, the better off we're going to be, she says, right? So indeed, now I don't think they're going to jail Elon Musk, but they might, right? They probably can't because he's got the rockets and all that other stuff. And he owns the social media company. But nevertheless, it looks like the argument is going to be clear that the TikTok corruption, which is now becoming widely understood by Americans, is just going to be transposed onto X. It's going to become the same problem. X is going to inherit most of the issues that persuasion has used to seed the ground for TikTok to be unwelcomed in America and to be forced into someone else's hands, right? Royco Cup. Royco Cup says they are not trying to take down Elon. SpaceX is in bed with the CIA. Well, hold on. The CIA is not a monolith necessarily, right? And I think Whitney Webb, I don't know how to say this. Her job is to uncover mostly true webs of webs. Whitney Webb uncovering webs of deceit and corruption. That's kind of what she does out in the environment, right? And we love her for that. We love her for that, right? But the nuance that might come in with maybe this person, maybe that person, white hat, black hat, it's not exactly the way we think, right? I continue to use the Hogwarts situation where the Muggles don't really understand, and I would include myself in the Muggles, right? But there's a wizarding war going on, and it's not so simple as good guy, bad guy, right? There's two different sides and all kinds of cross purposes. So I don't know the exact answer, but I don't think Elon is everybody's best friend when it comes to this system, right? Now, I agree there are people with SpaceX in particular, that's what saves him. If there's no SpaceX, I think he's over, right? I think he's just a car manufacturer. It's done. But he makes the rockets. They need the rockets. The satellites are a big help. So it's not so simple, right? So there you go. So Roy Kokup, I mostly believe you. It's more just that I understand Whitney Webb's purpose is not to get to the bottom of everything. It's to underline the web and the connections and what's going on. And if you see a positive connection, it doesn't give you all the context you need, right? So that's how I feel about that. Now, Whitney Webb, we need Whitney Webbs. It's like, there was Whitney Webb is a little bit like an Alex Berenson, right? And I love Alex Berenson. I don't agree with him on everything, and the world needs Alex Berensons. Look at what Alex Berenson even just wrote yesterday. It's a great, like, where would we be in the world without the Whitney Webbs and the Alex Berensons? Now, again, I don't agree with almost anything Alex Berenson actually believes or writes about, right? But I would never say we got to shut Alex Berenson up or anything like that, right? I love Alex Berenson. Now, again, I probably in a private conversation, if Alex Berenson and I were having a coffee, I would probably disagree with him about most things, right? But I think he's a true hero in America or the world or whatever you want to call it. Whitney Webb, I would put in the same boat. I doubt I agree with her about many things, but nevertheless, she's a hero to America, right? So, and to the world, right? So I think she's vital. These people are all vital. Here's what Alex says. Trump supposedly engaged in a conspiracy to win the election. This is Alex Berenson. But he's not charged for the $130,000 Cohen paid Daniels in 2016. He's charged for misclassifying the repayments he made to Cohen in 2017, by which time he'd already won the election, right? This is too good. So indeed, I love Whitney Webb. And I understand Elon's a military contractor. I understand there's reasons why he hasn't been destroyed already. I totally understand those. I understand there's people who could never live with him destroyed. Too many people are making money off of him. But there's other people that hate his guts and would sooner see him go away than the rockets go in the sky. They don't give a shit, right? They'll just copy it and whatever. So he's only so safe, right? And I guess I wouldn't use Whitney Webb to inform my opinion on what's going on with Elon globally, right? So now I don't need to trust Elon to have this worldview. I don't have hopes that Elon saves the world. We don't need that. We've got Bitcoin. We've got other plans. I'm here for the entertainment value of Elon Musk, and who doesn't appreciate what he did with X? It's just the greatest thing ever. Watching this happen, watching all this fighting happen is great, right? So there you go. But again, let's go back to our idea here that the Bitcoin bull run, right? And my theme is that, right? How the Bitcoin bull run plows through this bullshit. It's partly by understanding how this persuasion works, but it's mostly because of when you get into these economic questions, you can actually start seeing around corners. You can actually predict where things are headed. And just as I mentioned, we can predict with this TikTok bill that it's turning into an X conversation very, very quickly. Just like with the protests, right? With Colombia and what's going on over there and all this stuff. Here's what I think about the Colombia issue, right? So now we've got all these people protesting, all these people at the university. You can't go to the university. I guess they've now made they've canceled all classes till the end of the year. They're back to remote learning. They're back to remote learning at Columbia. So they got a whole town outside. As I mentioned, that lady, Colin Rugg, writing here, Columbia University has announced classes will be remote for the rest of the year as the anti-Israel protests rock the school. There are now growing calls for tuition refunds for the $70,000 a year college that now has practically turned into an online school. It's vital that teaching and learning continue during this time. We recognize conditions vary across our campuses and thus are issuing the following guidelines, the school said while making the announcement. By the way, where a lot of this camp is, I taught a lecture once at Columbia University on Bitcoin and cryptography and just a context for everyone. It was for the MBA or the joint, not MBA, sorry, forget that. There's a really cool degree at Columbia that if I would have been younger or whatever, would have taken it. It is law and engineering at the same time. Isn't that a cool degree? You can get engineering and law, graduate degree, some kind of master's, something really cool. So I went and taught that class one evening, and it was a great time. We talked all about the rabbit hole, Bitcoin, stuff like that. So I know exactly where this thing is going on. I was early to the class. The class was 3 hours or something. My lecture was about 3 hours. And I remember talking to the prof after outside and telling her about all the stuff that's coming that's going to be so fun in Bitcoin. It was 2019, so it was still a while ago. I think someone even wrote a review online of it. I called it something like Down the Rabbit Hole or something like that. I remember reading the review. The class liked it. So there you go. But here's what we can understand by the Hamas thing. And this is just my guess right now. I don't have any evidence for this. This is just me putting on my Bitcoin worldview hat, which is entirely economics based, and following the money. Where will this Hamas thing head over the summer? Well, with the border open, with all of these fights going on in Israel and America, and the social media companies again, I think we're going to get this argument. look at who benefits from Hamas and a resurgent ISIS, right? Who's going to benefit? We know who's going to benefit. It's the brainwashers in America. Israel will benefit from it. The Democrat Party will benefit from it for sure if they're able to turn the conversation so that it's explicitly anti-Hamas. They're getting killed right now. The Democrats just getting absolutely killed by this Hamas question, right? So they need it to go away. They need it to go away big time. And they need to consolidate the worldview that they've been cultivating for a long time because it's being affected right now. So my prediction is you're going to have, and I don't think they need to even do this. I think just a little nudge and just wait for it to happen. Wait for one of these crazy people to pop off, and then you're going to be able to do a 9/11 style roundup of rights. So I think Hamas, it's headed to being the resident evil of America. I think that's going to come. You don't see it yet, right? But who benefits from Hamas becoming the resident evil? Look at where people are already at in the conversation. I saw Zuby talking about Dubai being great and everyone's saying Sharia law, Sharia law. Everyone right now bragging that Dubai was able to clean up its trouble with the floods last week in like 2 days, right? And everyone in America like, no, but they got the Sharia law there. They got the Sharia law there, right? So I think you're starting to see a lot of this stuff bubble up and you're starting to see a bit of a consolidated view around it. You've got, you've got the warning yesterday from the CIA. So Christopher Wray, the FBI director, yesterday goes to NBC News. What do we know about NBC News? And laid a bit of this persuasion, right? He laid an egg of persuasion. And this is what he said, right? This is what he said. So he goes there and he talks to NBC News, who, if you believe Glenn Greenwald, and I repeat it every time I mention them here, that NBC News is an outlet for talking points and persuasion and nudging and brainwashing to be streamed into the American mind from intelligence agencies. NBC is the orifice through which this stuff is ejected, right? So here's what we found out from FBI Director Wray. So first of all, he says, we are increasingly concerned about the potential for some kind of coordinated attack here in the homeland, which may be not that different from what we saw against the concert hall in Russia a few weeks ago from ISIS-K. We hadn't heard about ISIS in years. And now suddenly ISIS comes back to Moscow. And now suddenly we have the FBI warning us here about ISIS coming to America. I think they're coming to America. Now, they could really be here. Again, it doesn't need to be that fake, right? You don't need to fake it to this degree. If you leave the border operational, if you look at this blueprint that the CARE Society is giving, or the CARE Group, or whatever, one of these NGOs, about how to stop supply chains in America to help push the whole conversation around Israel, and their BDS, they're supporting Israel, you got to stop them and all that stuff. So you can see all of that coming. So in America, you've got a bunch of people who are about to become even more anti-Islamic than ever before, right? Ever before. It's going to overwhelm the left because the left is starting to get too pro-Palestinian, or whatever you want to call it, right? So they're going to come and push them and nudge them completely. And I think you're going to get something like that. So we'll see. We'll see. But there's a double-edged sword to this. At the same time that Wray is warning you about ISIS and that stuff needs to be done against all these crazy Muslims, what else did Wray tell NBC about? Well, Christopher Wray comes out and says, so at the same time he's warning you that ISIS is coming and that something like popped off Muslims are coming to America, he's telling you that FBI director rejects Trump's vow to investigate political rivals. In a wide-ranging interview with NBC News, Christopher Wray broke with Trump over the former president's characterization of January 6th defendants as hostages. So he's at once persuading that ISIS is back, but he's also saying that Trump and the Republicans are up to more or less the same type of terrorism. So it looks like the CIA is going after its two belligerent groups, the two that won't fall in line, the two that don't fall in line with any of these agendas. So exactly as we said, Summer of Love coming from the TikTok bill in 2020 and 2024. You're going to see a similar thing with Muslims. And if Trump gets arrested, what do you expect to see? Some MAGA guy popping off, right? You don't even have to plant the person. There's going to be enough mental anxiety for this to happen naturally. They can create the anxiety. They can create the conditions for this stuff to happen. So that looks like it's what you're going to be seeing. But the good news is, and this is where the Bitcoiners run through all of this bullshit. As all this stuff is happening and as America is turning on itself, everything we've understood about how America tries to influence the world, right, has now moved inwards. But as it's moved inwards, as they're focusing on all these domestic threats, they've now sort of dropped the ball in manipulating everything abroad. They can't. The capacity is just not there. And because the capacity is not there, you're not going to be able to bully people with the sanctions like you once did. You're not going to be able to bully people in ways that you were able to just before, right? And you had Balaji bringing up the Obama quote from last year exactly about this. So not from last year, but from years ago. Obama said exactly this. He says, "We cannot dictate the foreign economic and energy policies of every major power in the world. In order to even try to do that, we would have to sanction, for example, some of the world's largest banks. We'd have to cut off countries like China and the American financial system from the American financial system. And since they happen to be major purchasers of our debt, such actions could trigger severe disruptions in our own economy and, by the way, raise questions internationally about the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency." So indeed, as America, now that we see how the machine works, now that we see that everything America has done for decades abroad has turned inward, probably in a great karmic, hilarious prank by God on America, that's what's happening. Everything America perfected, the machine it perfected to affect elections abroad, to persuade abroad, has all turned inward. As it's turning inward, the rest of the world is saying, wait a minute, what about the energy and the banking and all this shit you made us do? None of it will make sense to them anymore. Sanctions won't work. They haven't worked against Russia. They're not going to work against any of the other countries. And now that's why you've got a country just yesterday like Switzerland, right? Switzerland. Imagine Switzerland coming out yesterday and saying they're going to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Did you guys see this? So Bitcoin came out yesterday and says that it's exploring adding Bitcoin to its national reserves alongside assets like silver and gold. The referendum led by Yves Benem proposes a constitutional amendment to bolster economic stability and modernize reserve assets. Proponents see Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. Critics are wary of its volatility. At the same time, you've got Dubai, Saudi, these other countries that, again, why do they need to get involved? They're going to be kicked to the curb just as much, right? Hamas, ISIS, all this shit is coming back. It's going to be 2001, 2002 all over again in America. And you're seeing it already. Like I said, look at this Bruce Fenton. Bruce Fenton is over in Dubai and Saudi, and all of these people telling him, oh, America, they don't have freedom over there. What a shithole. Who cares if they can fix their subway? What about freedom? We don't have anything like that in America. We haven't been a republic or anything close to a republic in 50 years, maybe more. Right? At least we know since Kennedy, no such thing as a republic in this country. Just a shithole run by absolute tyrants, abusing a system, manipulating people, convincing them of lies, creating hallucinations in their head, and more or less brainwashing them at a scale the world has never seen before. But now that it's being done even more heavily on domestic Americans, this is the way Bitcoiners are going to run through it. Because Bitcoiners, this economics piece, as well as the understanding it gives you with the worldview to separate money and state, means that you're not as bound by national identity. National identity is a brand new thing, that your identity would be formed in the nation you're from, right? It's a little, especially in the case of like Canada. What the fuck does someone like me from Montreal have to believe that the unity I have with people in British Columbia somehow informs my personality? It doesn't. There's nothing to do with it. I love their salmon. I like the food out there, but I have way less in common with someone from British Columbia than I do with someone from Vermont or New York. right? Those are closer to me and more relevant to me because the environment is the same, the people are similar. So I love all these places, right? Where we have no ill will against British Columbia. But why did my identity have to be formed with them in mind? Why did the brainwashing have to include them for my own national identity? It never made any sense. And it's a new thing in the world. It came with money being issued by governments. It came with all the edifice we built around the war machine and the persuasion that needed to go with it. And it's been decades now, and it doesn't work anymore. And so Bitcoiners understanding that their patriotism, and it's been a long time that I believe that the biggest weakness Americans had with Bitcoin was patriotism for the dollar. Now that patriotism in America for the dollar itself and for all the ill that it creates is starting to wane, America has a chance to predict what's happening, see what's happening, and alter course. And so individual Americans are going to be left up to this. Now, if it happens in America, great, right? I do think it would be nice to win the fight for democracy in order to let it die peacefully, because the alternative of letting it die with Biden is probably a lot bloodier, right? Probably crazier, probably more wild. We would like to turn it off gently. We can. I think we can. I think we're going to reject this summer of love. But anyway, when the rest of the world, here's the fun part, right? And here's the conclusion and why Bitcoiners are going to be able to run through this. Just as America has turned inwards with all this stuff, the rest of the world is no longer under the same capture. And just as Obama had said, right, they can't sanction everyone, they can't kick everyone out, they can't dictate energy policy around the world. They're not going to be able to. And you're going to have other countries that are going to look at America in the summer and say exactly what we heard earlier. This is not a rules-based system. This is not a democracy that you must preserve, right? It's nothing of the sort. What was the one where I was reading about? The Zelensky thing, right? So remember, Zelensky saying that the vote reinforces America's role as a beacon of democracy and the leader of the free world. I mean, it's a punchline. It couldn't be funnier. Imagine, just 3 years ago, you would have never found an American to hear this line, right? This is Zelensky writing in his own words. The vote reinforces America's role as a beacon of democracy and the leader of the free world. If you read that to Bukele, do you think he would just think it's a joke and it's a punchline? Of course he would, right? The way humor works is take words that are normal and then the context changes and it sort of hits a funny bone, right? Normal words with a context that gives them a different way of interpreting it. So because our brainwashing had let us know that America was the freedom beacon, blah, 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 for years, with everything we've seen now, whenever you say it, it's just funny. Like, it's hilarious. Right? It's hilarious. So you're going to have more and more people wake up to that, more and more Americans, more and more foreigners. And whatever they're pushing here, that Biden is the leader of the free world and America is a pillar of democracy, it's so stupid that its capacity to persuade is going to fail. It's going to fail. And no amount of hoax 9/11s, no amount of hoax Muslim terrorists, no amount of hoax MAGA terrorists are going to change it. And we can see it all coming. Now, there's going to be actual Hamas terrorists who will probably deserve to die, right? Just like there might be an actual MAGA terrorist who probably has mental issues, probably is all caught up in this stuff, probably not a healthy person, and probably will deserve to die for the crime they commit. I don't know. But it's not going to persuade people. It's not going to turn people in the way they hope. And even if it does, we'll find other places to operate, right? So there you go. No, I love. So that's what I mean. Isn't it hilarious that Zelensky does all of this, right? Says all of this stuff. And then right away they close consular stuff for Ukrainians abroad. So now they're going to chuck them on the front lines. I can't wait. It's just so funny. It's so funny. I'm sorry if I'm saddened by what happens, but the amount of death in Ukraine is a little bit, it's not unfunny. It's not unfunny, okay? When you hear stuff like that, when you hear stuff like the vote to give them more weapons is reinforcing democracy, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. And now The group that cut off elections, banned the church, is now going to go outside of its territory to draft people to throw them on the front line. That's who we're helping to preserve democracy. Come on. Like, again, I'm sorry people are dying. It sucks, right? It really sucks. I would not be able to go there. I'm telling you, I would piss my pants. I'd be so mortified by going anywhere near that front line. So I'm respectful of the people and what they're going through and the fear they're overcoming to be on that front line. But it doesn't change the fact that we got a guy out here selling democracy and taking everyone's money and killing everybody and not doing anything like democracy. So, I mean, you can't get better than that, right? All right. Let's see what we got here. A lot of runes debates, huh? Tyrannica uber atlas, yes. Go around the world as a tyrant. CB says, oh, this is annoying. It does change the order when I pin one on the timer. I don't like that. That's okay. Like and subscribe for continued prosperity, CB reminds us all. Indeed, please like and subscribe. Veterans Cannabis. What's going on here? Summer of Love. They will turn into Fall of Hate and Fascist Government. Yeah, it's not good. Blame Game. What's the name for the trick when some random spy agency leaks info to the press? It's called information laundering. That's what I call it. Information laundering, because it sounds like money laundering. You know? There you go. Greetings and salutations, something but the timing and content of Nolan, creativity and humor. Something about the timing and content of Nolan, creativity and humor. That is correct and perfect for the age of Morrow's horror. This world is. I think we're talking about some Moscow times there. All right. When a person like Webb speaks in absolutes, I can't trust them. Yeah, look, you're not, you got. It's the same as Berenson. You got to appreciate what they bring, and you got to know the world needs people like that. And they're not really here to give you the. It's a little bit like. Now, I'm not putting RFK in the same group, but remember, I don't expect RFK to be right about anything that he talks about. Nothing. I like that he asks the right questions, and that's what he's there for. He's asking you the actual questions he's asking, right? And that's what being honest is. It doesn't mean he's right about anything. He just asks the right questions. And so you really need people like that. And Whitney Webb, I don't go to her for answers to questions. I go to see what questions she's asking. She's on the right path, just like Berenson's on the right path. But when it comes to answering the questions, that's a different skill set, right? And Berenson doesn't have it, and Whitney Webb doesn't have it. And I don't think RFK has it. He's a lawyer, right? He's like me. He's just trained in the law. He understands that stuff. He understands what bullshit looks like, but I can't run a lab and prove bullshit. I'm not going to do that. So, that's how he does it. All right. The only thing it guarantees is more death and the military industrial. Yeah. Makes money and the wheel goes. Well, so this is my prediction. That's why I'm predicting this Hamas thing and the Elon thing. It's because everyone benefits. That's it. It's not that I think it's going to happen because of some reason. Who benefits from Muslims being the enemy again in America? They're not enemy enough right now for the Democrats to control things. So if Israel gets its way and the Democrats get their way, and even a lot of the Republicans get their way, then that's what happens. So you would imagine these folks are going to try and get their way. So that's all I'm guessing. And now the crossover with mixing in the MAGA thing is how the Uniparty gets rid of Muslims and MAGA at the same time. MAGA Muslims, right? The MAGA and the Muslims. So I see it as the same thing. We'll see. We'll see. All right, that's all I got. So I'm going to Ottawa today to pick up my vehicle and some stuff I left from Christmas. And when we first went to Barbados, we left from Ottawa, if you remember. So I got to go pick up stuff. So we will be doing the show tomorrow, but from Ottawa for 2 days, and then we'll be back here. And then there's a bit of bouncing around until we get things really set up. Isn't Elon the largest U.S. subsidized player? Morand asks. I don't know about that. Might be. He might be. Again, we just don't have the insight, right? We just don't have all the information. Now, in some world, is he being protected? But as a front, it doesn't look like it. It just doesn't look like it, right? It looks like to me, it looks exactly as it appears. He's worried existentially about humanity, bought Twitter, a whole bunch of shit happened, right? And we're left dealing with it. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I just don't think it's that targeted, let's say, or that constructed. It's all a bunch of doing the best with what you got left, you know? All right, team, that's all I got for today. I appreciate you coming. It is a big coffee cup, but it's not that wide, so it doesn't really produce a bigger cup. Right? We love it, though. Have a great day, everyone. See you all tomorrow morning from the Christmas Ottawa studio. Peace.